I'm moderating Ilan Sinelnikov, and I would like to, because we're running over a little bit, so I'm going to make it as short as I possibly can. Ilan's bio. Ilan is president and founder of Students Supporting Israel, an international pro-Israel grassroots students movement that operates in over 140 college campuses and universities in the United States, Canada, Argentina, France, Norway, and Israel. My question to you, Ilan, what can we take from the challenges Zionism faced during the mandate, who were powerless at the time and only wanted the League to sign? The lessons we must take away to urge Jewish leadership the world over to stand strong and united to combat anti-Zionism, which is spreading like wildfire. Can you address these two questions? I have some more, but I have to cut it short.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for having me. And of course, thank you to the sponsors of this webinars and to the speakers that spoke ahead of me. My name is Ilan. I'm the president and founder of Students Supporting Israel, as mentioned. And I'll touch on the biggest problem that we're facing today on college campuses. And it is that the students a lot of times take for granted the establishment of the State of Israel. So if we're looking back in the day, we know that the State of Israel was not always here. 70 years ago, my grandparents grew in a world in which the Jewish people were not masters to their own destiny, and they were in many cases depend on the generosity of the guest host countries in which they lived in. Nowadays, when we already had the State of Israel around for 73 years, a lot of Jewish students on college campuses and high schools and the Zionist students as well are being born into a world where the State of Israel is a powerful country. It, of course, faces its challenges on so many different levels, but at the end of the day, it is there, and it's something that, unfortunately, at times is being taken for granted. Now, in Students Supporting Israel, what we try to do and what we try to teach the students, and we believe those are possibly some of the answers to the situation that we're facing on college campuses, is first of all, the importance of Zionism. We know that Zionism is the national liberation movement of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people, generations of Jewish people worked hard for thousands of years in order to get to that moment in which we have an independent state once again. And it is our job to know what Zionism is, why it is important, why in days where Zionism wasn't too much of a conversation, anti-Semitism was so much on the rise, and how we can make sure that we promote the ideas of Zionism on our college campuses without it being almost like a bad word or a term that people are trying to run away from. So that's one thing, going to the roots of the issue and learning about Zionism, its definition, the importance of it, and why it's needed. Second, we know that during the British mandate, of course, prior to the establishment of the State of Israel, there were many different views of Zionism. Zionism was not presented in just one specific view. So does go to our college campuses. When we deal with students who believe in Zionism in different ways, shapes, and forms, yes, everyone has their own opinion on how it should look like, but at the end of the day, we are all united for the core of our mission, which is supporting a Jewish and democratic state, the State of Israel. So that's what we are here for. Now, a lot of the challenges we face on college campuses, it's of course with the anti-Zionist students and students that say that the State of Israel shouldn't exist to begin with. There is only one state, I know that I might repeat this, but there is only one state in the world that there are academic discussions on if this state is legitimate to be around or not. There is no academic discussions on if Spain is a legitimate state to be around or not. It's always and it's only Israel. So our job is to counter those narratives, to counter those lies, because we know that without the Jewish state, millions of Jewish people around the world will be constantly living in danger. And my family came from the former Soviet Union republics, from Ukraine and Kiev. My great-grandfather lost his parents in pogroms, and those were days without the State of Israel. So the State of Israel gave my family a refuge. It gave my family a home to be safe, to be secure, and not just my family from the former Soviet Union republics, but also to Jewish people that came from all over the Middle East, North Africa, Africa, South America, North America, Europe, and elsewhere. This is the importance of the state of Israel. This is why fighting for Zionism, for the idea of Zionism, doesn't stop only with the establishment of the state. It doesn't end there, but this battle constantly continues. And our job is to reach the younger generation as much as we can. If you have any children or grandchildren that go to college campuses or to high schools, we'll be more than happy if you can refer them to Students Supporting Israel, to start Students Supporting Israel chapters in as many high schools and colleges as we can, and to keep pushing forward together, because together we are stronger. And this is our only way to fight the anti-Semites, to fight the lies, to fight those falsehoods and those false narratives that are being presented. No matter if we're outnumbered 10 to 100, as long as we show up, as long as we put up a battle, the state of Israel will be there, and we'll make sure that we defend its name. So this is everything from me for now. So we can, of course, move on to the next speakers. And if there is time for any other questions, I'll be happy to respond as well.
Ilan, thank you very much. Your words are very important to students, to educators. And here I have to ask you a very important question that just came to me. When anti-Semitism happens in schools, whose responsibility is it to turn things around? How do we lift the heavy burden Jewish teachers and parents are facing when it comes to anti-Semitism education? How do we get the support from the leadership?
So a lot of times people don't even, non-Jewish people don't necessarily know how to recognize anti-Semitism. A lot of times even Jewish people don't necessarily know how to recognize such a thing. So our first thing is to recognize what is anti-Semitism to begin with. One thing that we've been using in Students Supporting Israel for it is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, also known as the IHRA. And in the past academic year, while we were all studying online, we worked towards the adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism on 16 college campuses and universities across North America. Now, this is one step. It doesn't solve the problem, but it's one step to recognizing the problem. Then it's also important to report about it and to speak about it. In the past year, during the previous administration, I was present at the signing of the executive order when the Jewish people were added towards the Title VI, which is the discrimination title against minorities on college campuses, and that the schools can be reviewed in case there is some sort of anti-Semitism, for example, and the school is doing nothing about it. Schools can be reviewed by the Department of Education and also can be held accountable for it. So this is something we encourage our students. First of all, recognize anti-Semitism. Know when you see something anti-Semitic. Second, don't let it sit in your heart. You got to speak about it and report it or do something about it, because the worst thing that you can possibly do is to not even say a word about it. And third, if we go towards the administration, we try to have them solving the issue and there's nothing being done and they keep ignoring the problem or clearing it under the table, then there is the way to act. And it is submitting a Title VI case against the school, which of course it's not going to be easy right away, but it's something we can try to attempt to do. And a lot of schools, the number one thing that they're afraid of is bad publicity. No schools will be wanted to be seen as anti-Semitic institutions. So maybe that's a way, one of the ways to combat it.
May I take it one point further, Ilan? Right now we're facing a pernicious act from the TDSB here in Toronto, the Toronto District School Board, where one of the equity plan staff member of the equity division has been presenting hundreds of pages and distributed it to thousands of educators bashing Israel. Do you agree that there is no solution, but the only answer would be to counterpoint those lies? And we're having a very difficult problem with the school accepting us or allowing us to distribute the power of education, which we do have in our hands, so do you, but we're not allowed to do the distribution of that material. How do we come across that problem?
So, a lot of times, first of all, we need to combat it without a doubt, because we can't just kind of close our eyes and hope that things will get better on their own and we'll wake up tomorrow and things will be better. It's not the case. We've always seen that whenever the problems arise and we're not countering them, it's getting worse and worse and worse. So we for sure need to counter it. Let it be on levels in which we can work in front of the administration, or sometimes if we can work in front of the administration or in front of boards or so on, because they're not allowing to distribute some materials, we can always, for example, in SSI, find some students and give them the materials and say, hey, go start spreading those on your colleges, go start spreading those materials on your campuses. So it doesn't need to be a work to counter the lies always from the top bottom, but it can also be countering the lies from the grassroots level and going up. You know, if they don't let us through the door, we can walk through the window. And that's what we've been doing with students supporting Israel a lot. We've been trying to maneuver our ways in front of different administrations, in front of different student governments in the past, in front of different boards in order to accomplish our goal. And at the end of the day, even if we can't accomplish it on the administration level, if we win in the hearts and minds of the people on the ground, on the grassroots level, we believe that we also did our share. I know that Goldie, you provided a book that our students are using in the past year already through your organization. And that's a piece of information that we try to provide to our students, let it be pamphlets from the Zionist Organization of America or different booklets from Tirtzu that is also sponsored on this stuff. All of those things that go towards SSI, we keep sharing it on our college campuses and spreading it to our students, because we don't always need to have a permit from an administration in order to educate our peer right next to us on the academic bench. So this is one way out of many, and the fight continues. We always must stand up.
Thank you, Ilan. Wise words, and we'll take your advice. You're talking about this book, I imagine, and I know you're using it in your studies.